You most definitely will have a competency-based interview, which is where they ask the typical questions of tell me about yourself. These questions will mainly be based on the values of the business, and they also may not come across how you are expecting them to come across. There are so many ways that you can implicitly show your usefulness in a team without being the loudest person. I'm giving you guys my gems. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Thames for those of you who are new, and in today's video we are going to be discussing interview preparation and what to do and what not to do in your interviews. These tips are mainly geared towards graduate scheme interviews or internship interviews, but they are pretty general, so even if you are applying for other positions, you can still apply these. I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel. This has been completely insane. I didn't think that I would be at this point so soon, so quickly, or even to get to this point in the first place. So I just want to thank every single one of you guys who have subscribed to my channel, commented, liked. I read every single comment, respond to basically every single comment, and I make videos even if one person asks a question. So guys, do make sure you comment down below and ask the questions that you want to ask. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you might just want to skip this and go to the next timestamp. There are timestamps in the description. But I am a advanced chemical engineering master's student here in London at Imperial College London, and I have done 2 internships. So I did an industrial placement, which is 12 months with Unilever, and I also did a summer internship with BP, which is British Petroleum. I've also made lots of applications during my 5 years at university. I do have a little bit of experience in applying to graduate roles, going to assessment centres, telephone interviews, the likes basically. And I have done a few career fairs talking to students about how to get into some of these bigger companies, some of these more competitive companies. I think I definitely have some tips. If you can hear some buzzing in the background, I'm actually just running an engineering simulation at the moment. Apologies for that, or if you hear like an error noise, it means that something's gone wrong. So if you are interested in applying for internships, whether you're a first year, second year student, or if you're interested in applying for graduate positions, maybe you're a second year out of a 3-year course or a third year student out of a 4-year course, then you probably have to do an interview at the end of that. So it will probably be involved in your assessment centre, or it could be separate. It depends. It really does depend on the company. I think it's super important to know what they're looking for in an ideal candidate. So first off, I think they're looking for future leaders of their companies. Graduate positions do tend to accelerate individuals to management positions faster than if you were just to get a role within the company and work your way up. So they're definitely looking to accelerate you and get you into a leadership role quite soon, depending on how you do. Graduate schemes are essentially like accelerated training to those management positions. They're also looking for long-term ambition. So if you get to your interview and they ask you, you know, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or what do you want to do with your life? Like, what do you want to be? You definitely always want to include the company in those plans. Also show off what you know about the company and about how the progression is. It doesn't have to be specific, but in 5 years you can say that you expect to have completed the graduate scheme and, you know, you're on your way to becoming a chartered engineer if that's what you want. They want to know that they're not just hiring you for an internship just for you to get your work experience, tick that off on your CV, and that's it, you've taken their name with you and are using it for other applications. They want to know that this can be a long-term interview for them to get to know you. You can get to know them, and the goal is to make you stay there basically after you graduate. Can you do the job technically and also like personally, so skills wise, soft skill wise, i.e. you're not a robot. If you're going for a more scientific role or an engineering-y role, yeah, so it tends to be science and engineering, that you might have a separate technical interview to your like competency-based interview. And in these interviews, they do definitely assess whether you can technically do the role. Now in certain companies this is different, certain companies may be harder than others. Definitely try and prepare for that aspect of the interview, and if you guys want some tips about that, do leave a comment down below. Skills wise, they also want to know that you are a human being and you can behave like a human being and not just someone who, you know, always wants to get the job done, is only concerned about the work. Because at the end of the day, people have to work with you, people have to be able to be in meetings with you, they're spending quite a few hours with you in their day at work, so they need to know that you're actually a nice person and you're personable and approachable and you're nice, basically. In terms of soft skills, I definitely think it's important to note that you might be asked questions that you might not have had experience with at the stage you're at. So if you're a first year student, a second year student, you may not have, for example, experience dealing with tough characters or experience of trying to persuade people to your way of thinking in a high pressure environment, things like that. And I'm going to go on to how you can sort of get around this a bit later on. Are you aware of what the company does in their business, but also in the department or function that you're applying to? You probably are aware of this if you've gotten this far. There it goes in the application process. But do know that the person interviewing you probably doesn't know about all your answers before. So treat the interview as though everything you did before, no one knows about it. They only know your name. If you give the answers previously, don't contradict yourself. The interview does take this a bit further. They're going to be testing things like commercial awareness. So testing whether you understand where their business sits in the market or in their industry, and also where the department fits into the wider business, so the context of the department you're applying to as well. So in a bit more detail than you probably would have had to answer in the previous stages. There are lots of ways to improve your commercial awareness. So things like talking to people, what you guys are doing right now, watching this video, reading about the industry you're looking to apply to. You know, if you're in chemical engineering, manufacturing, supply chain, any of these things, energy even, you can definitely reach out to me and I'll try and answer some of the questions that you might have or point you in the right direction for some resources that you can read up on. Talk to your professors, other students that may have done internships. There's so many ways you can increase your commercial awareness. It's not necessarily, it's one of those weird areas that you can't be taught. You need to talk to different people and learn about their experiences. So definitely try and expose yourself to, maybe there's talks going on in your university, expose yourself to ways to increase that commercial awareness, because it's definitely something that comes through that isn't necessarily something that is an explicit question. Can you handle pressure? Can you handle big workloads? Can you handle deadlines? And they want to know that you can do this, because at the end of the day, you need to be valuable to the company and you need to deliver something. You can show this by talking about any projects that you've done, just meeting a deadline that wasn't set by yourself. This also fits into the time management category. So if you're a university student, you should definitely have something else you do apart from university, maybe a society, maybe a club that you go to that shows that you can handle pressure in different areas of life. Also that, again, you're not a robot. Can you work in a team? I thought I'd change the angle and mix things up a bit. Can you work in a team? This is definitely a key area that they are looking for you to demonstrate, and they do this by way of putting in group tasks in your assessment center. Especially in the engineering industry, you always work in teams. If you want to know a bit more about ChemEng, this is a video I filmed with my sister, and we basically talk about chemical engineering and just engineering in general and some of the skills that you need for engineering versus science. Don't talk over people. Don't force your opinions down people's throats. Offer to do things. Be a leader. And being a leader doesn't always mean being the loudest person. You can be a leader by way of bringing structure to the conversation, by bringing strategy forward, by keeping time. There are so many ways that you can implicitly show your usefulness in a team without being the loudest person. You definitely need to speak. That definitely works against you if you don't speak in a team, because then you're not giving any value. But definitely don't talk over people. It's actually the worst thing that you can do. And make sure as a leader, remember we're trying to be leaders here, that everyone is included in the conversation. This is something, I'm giving you guys my gems. This is literally stuff that I do in interviews. Make sure you're, involving everyone, bringing people into the conversation. And you don't have to do all of these. These are just examples of things that you can definitely do to prove your usefulness in a team, to show that you can work in a team, but also to make sure that you're showing them that you're a listener, but you can also take what you listen to, really take it, analyze it, critically analyze it, even bring forward questions. There are so many ways, and guys, I could literally do a whole video on assessment centers and specifically on the specific tasks that they ask you to do, because, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, I'm definitely not trying to do that, like this is not what I'm here for. But I've actually only done 2 assessment centers because I always apply for the company that I want first, and that just happens to be the company that I do the assessment center with first. So I haven't had to do any of the other ones. I don't see the point in trying to rack up loads of offers when other people also need to get internships. I don't think that's necessary for me to do that if I've gotten the job that I want. Anyway, in both of these assessment centers, retrospectively, I can break down every single thing that happened and basically analyze it to see what they were looking for and how I actually demonstrated that. So guys, if you want more detailed videos, there's so much more detail I can go into. This is literally just like a broad sweep. Are you genuinely interested in the role? Now, this may seem quite trivial, I guess, to consider, but for example, if you're a chemical engineer and you're going to apply for a company like Shell, as a chemical engineer, you can apply for reservoir engineering, you can apply for wells, you can apply for process instrumentation and control, you can apply for chemical and process engineering. There's so many different categories you can apply for with your credentials. So actually showing interest in the specific area that you've chosen to do is also really important. Ask questions at the end. The question of, do you have any questions at the end, is a question, and treat it as such. You should be walking into the interview with questions prepped in your head. And I know it's quite easy to forget the questions that you planned at the end when they say, oh, do you have any questions? And you're like, I had so many, but I just forgot. Yeah, don't be that person. Try and actually come up with questions throughout the whole interview. Anything that they say that merely piques your interest just a little bit, remember what they've said and actually ask them to go back and probe more into that, because first of all, people like talking about themselves. If they've mentioned a bit of their journey through the company, how did you get where you are now, and what advice would you give to someone, you know, fingers crossed I get into the company, what advice would you give to someone like me? It's good to show interest into their field. You're probably applying to a department that they work in. There's so many things that you can do there. Do case study prep. Now, case studies are notoriously famous in the consulting industry, and I've had literally a tiny bit of experience there this year with like case studies and things like that. Not a huge amount, but I was just interested in why it's so hard and difficult, and you know, why people don't do necessarily well on them all the time. But for engineering and science and, you know, your typical grad scheme roles and internship roles in these areas, your case studies will be a bit more different to the consulting ones. So consulting questions can be like, estimate the number of laundrettes in England. Like, why would you ask that? But for engineering and science, it would probably be that they give you a case study on your assessment center day. And this will be like a fake company, or it could even be their companies. They give you a scenario, basically have to make decisions based on the information that they've given you. So it could be a list of 6 projects that they might want to implement within the next year. They want you to prioritize 2 key ones based on the targets that they've set out as a company, the deliverables of the project, how long the projects take, how much money the projects cost. So many different factors they want you to weigh up and think business mindedly. That's a skill called business acumen. If you don't take anything away from this video, take away the 2 terms, commercial awareness and business acumen, and also the teams thing that I was talking about earlier. Because as engineers and scientists, or anyone in STEM, to be honest, unless you go to a school like Imperial, I don't know what other school does it apart from Imperial, in my own experience, you probably won't be having modules on business. It's not prioritized. So definitely try and improve your business acumen. You know, what do terms like revenue, gross margins, just basic terms, use your experiences. So as I mentioned, you might be a first year student, or you could have had experience already applying for internships in second year and you're trying again in third year. Use any experiences that you pick up along the way. And if you're on first year, yes, use your experiences from A level or from sixth form or from part-time jobs. Use everything that you can, but don't use the same things, you know, more than twice. So if you did paper rounds when you're younger and you had to balance that with your GCSEs, or you were in a sports club and that was quite intensive in terms of practicing and hours, and you developed your time management off of that, definitely use that for the, you know, time management sorts of questions, but don't use that for like at least more than 2. You can also show like your teamwork skills there, but don't use it for every single competency question they may ask you. You most definitely will have a competency-based interview, which is where they ask the typical questions of tell me about yourself and show me a time where you've demonstrated this. These questions will mainly be based on the values of the business, but also just typical competency questions as well. And they also may not come across how you are expecting them to come across. So they won't necessarily say, show me a time when you demonstrated safety. It may not be that explicit, but from the way they phrase it, and if you're confused about how they phrased it, definitely be thinking about what are they looking for. It's probably going to be based off the values of their business, so know the values, or it's going to be a typical competency question. I can't address every single thing in this video, guys, so let me know if you have further questions in the comments. Use the STAR technique for discussing your experiences. So situation, task, action, the result. What was the situation that you were in? What was the task that had to be done or had to be completed? What was your action? What did you do about it? And what was the outcome of it? So in that way, you can show that you came up with an idea, you tested it out, it worked. What was the result? And they want to see that you obviously got a favorable result from your experiences because you're using it to demonstrate a specific skill that you have. So guys, I have talked a lot in this video and I hope it hasn't been too... Okay, let me change the angle one more time. This video has definitely been longer than I thought it would be. Just talking about this stuff, a lot more ideas are coming to my mind about videos, other videos I can make. But of course, guys, do comment below. Let me know if you want me to expand on any single one of the things that I've mentioned. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. Send me a DM on Instagram or comment down below. I really actually enjoy helping people with this stuff. I think it's super important, not just for your CV, but also personally too. And guys, if you got this far, definitely give this video a like. Subscribe if you want to see more from myself. And apologies that it's been a few weeks since I uploaded last. I've been definitely planning lots and lots of videos for you guys and just been taking a step back and looking at all of the feedback that I get from the comments, the likes and everything, and what people DM me, and I've just been trying to compile it all into a plan. It's growing quite a bit really quickly and I want to keep making sure that I make content that is relevant and interesting to you guys. I will see you guys next week with another video.